So it's taken less than a year for Lakers fans to already want Luka Dončić gone. And I mean this when I say this, please trade him. Please trade him to anywhere. Anywhere. Please trade Luka Dončić. Please trade the best offensive player in the world. Just because your dumbass franchise surrounds a notoriously slow-footed offensive superstar with a bunch of slow players who can't defend either, meaning that he has to consistently guard fast wings, which he can't do, and looks like he's getting exposed.
The debate between Michael Jordan and LeBron James is still one of the most heated arguments in sports history, and for many fans, it always circles back to the same question: who truly defined greatness in basketball? And according to Stephen A. Smith, that answer has never really changed. Stephen A. has repeatedly pushed back against what he sees as constant attempts to elevate LeBron into a category that, in his view, already belongs to Jordan. Every time LeBron hits another milestone or puts up a massive scoring night, the GOAT conversation instantly flares up again online. But Stephen A.'s core argument is that Jordan already reached that level of dominance decades ago, and did it in a way that still feels unmatched in terms of control, impact, and intimidation. One of the most striking points often highlighted in this debate is Jordan's ability to dominate even late in his career. Stephen A. has pointed to moments like Jordan scoring 40 points at age 40 as evidence of a player whose greatness extended beyond his prime and into multiple eras of basketball. To him, that kind of performance isn't just a stat line, it represents a mentality that never faded, even after retirement and comebacks. On the other hand, LeBron James has built a legacy defined by longevity, durability, and sustained excellence over more than 2 decades in the league. Even in his 22nd season, he continues to break records and add to career totals that may never be touched. But Stephen A.'s argument is that longevity and peak dominance are not the same thing. In his eyes, Jordan didn't need a long career to prove his status. He established it through an explosive peak that defined an entire era of basketball. That's the heart of Stephen A.'s stance. He isn't denying LeBron's greatness or dismissing his accomplishments. Instead, he believes Jordan's impact went far beyond statistics, creating a standard that every modern player is still measured against. The championships, finals performances, scoring titles, and cultural influence all combined into a legacy that continues to shape how greatness is defined in the NBA. And that's why the debate refuses to die. One side values longevity, total production, and sustained excellence. The other side values peak dominance, championship perfection, and the feeling that a player completely controlled the sport at its highest level. In Stephen A.'s view, Jordan still represents that peak, and every new achievement from LeBron simply reopens a conversation that may never reach a final conclusion. Meanwhile, the conversation shifts again as team narratives collide with fan reactions. The Lakers are struggling, and suddenly some fans are already turning on Luka Dončić, despite how recently he was being called the future of the franchise. He's being blamed for defensive issues, pace problems, and overall losses, while expectations swing wildly depending on the team's results. At the same time, LeBron James has returned to the lineup, and yet the focus quickly shifts away from him in the midst of the team's collapse. It creates the kind of emotional reaction and inconsistency that Lakers fans are known for, where hope and frustration change almost overnight depending on the latest stretch of games.
I think since we've gotten Bron back, we haven't been as organized offensively.
The question of whether Luka Dončić is the problem or whether the Los Angeles Lakers simply don't know how to build a proper roster around their stars has become the latest flashpoint in a familiar cycle. And if you've followed this franchise long enough, none of this should really be surprising. Let's be honest right away, Lakers fans calling for a trade this quickly is exactly the kind of reaction this fanbase is known for. This is the same pattern we've seen for years: huge expectations, instant pressure, and very little patience when things don't click immediately. This isn't new either. Over the years, the Lakers have cycled through stars, scapegoats, and quick fixes whenever things went wrong. Big names come in as saviors, and if the results don't arrive fast enough, the narrative flips just as quickly. That's the reality of playing under one of the most demanding fan bases in sports. And that's why the current frustration around Luka feels so familiar. Instead of asking deeper questions about spacing, defense, chemistry, or roster construction, the conversation instantly shifts toward blaming the newest superstar. It's an easy narrative, but not always the accurate one. Because the real issue often isn't just the talent at the top. It's how the pieces around that talent are built. Championship teams aren't just about stars, they're about fit, balance, and identity. And when those things are missing, even elite players can look like they're struggling. So when fans jump straight to trade talks, it says more about the environment than the player. The pressure cooker of Los Angeles tends to amplify frustration and shorten timelines. And in that chaos, accountability gets blurred, mistakes are rarely shared evenly, and the spotlight always lands on whoever is easiest to blame. That's why this situation feels less like a Luka problem and more like a repeating pattern. Different names, same reactions, same impatience. And until that changes, the cycle in LA is likely to keep repeating itself no matter who is on the roster.
You cannot blame Luka when there is a blueprint on how to play around Luka, just like there was a blueprint on how to play around James Harden. Is Luka Dončić that much worse a defender than James Harden in Houston? No. Is he that much worse a defender than fucking Magic Johnson? No. He's probably a better defender than Magic Johnson was. He couldn't defend anybody. And Luka Dončić has so many flaws. Let's be real. He has so many flaws, but he is a fucking maverick offensive talent to the extent where he is one of the 10 greatest offensive players the sport has ever seen.
Here's what actually went down. The Luka Dončić trade had the entire league buzzing. The Los Angeles Lakers brought him in, expectations shot through the roof, and at first, everything looked like it was working. The team came out strong, they were stacking wins, and Luka was doing exactly what Luka does, flirting with triple-doubles night after night while controlling the offense. Even Austin Reeves looked more comfortable. The spacing made sense, the ball was moving, and for a moment, it actually felt like the Lakers had figured something out. Then the momentum shifted. LeBron James returned from injury. And almost overnight, everything started to look different. The pace slowed down. The ball movement wasn't as sharp. Possession started feeling more deliberate, more stagnant. Luka, who had been in full control of the offense, suddenly looked less comfortable, especially on the defensive end where rotations and communication started breaking down. And now the conversation has completely flipped. Fans who were celebrating the roster just weeks ago are suddenly pointing fingers, and some are even talking about trading Luka already. But here's the part nobody seems to be asking out loud: what actually changed? Because the roster didn't get worse on paper. The talent didn't disappear. The only real difference was the return of LeBron. And that's where the real debate begins.
That LeBron physically just can't play any defense at all. No one is asking him to be Gary Payton, but LeBron is choosing not to show any effort. He is choosing to stand around and do nothing. He is choosing to allow offensive rebounds, and he's choosing to cherry pick for easy layups while leaving his man wide open.
LeBron came back. And that's when everything started to feel different for the Luka Dončić and the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, nobody's saying LeBron is finished, that's not the point. But what you can't ignore is the reality of fit. When you have two high-usage, ball-dominant superstars on the same floor, the entire rhythm of the offense has to change. Luka thrives when he controls tempo. When he pushes pace, reads defenses in real time, and dictates every possession like a chess match. But when the system slows down, when touches get split, and when the offense becomes more structured and deliberate, his natural flow can look different. On top of that, you've got Austin Reeves trying to find his role in between two elite creators. Some possessions it works, other possessions it feels crowded, predictable, and harder to space out. And that's where the real debate starts. Is this a roster problem? A system problem? Or just the inevitable challenge of trying to blend multiple superstars who all operate best with the ball in their hands? Because when the pace drops and roles overlap, even the most talented teams can start to feel out of sync. And right now, that's exactly the conversation surrounding the Lakers.
And everything is what we're talking about a lot. Like, LeBron's been playing off the ball a lot. and you had 8 tonight, he had 5 tonight. What do you feel like needs to happen as far as helping LeBron balance the off-ball stuff that makes y'all so dynamic offensively with him needing to possibly help you with the playmaking and shot creation and turnover reduction?
Yeah, too many turnovers. Gotta stop losing the ball.
Luka Dončić is one of the most dangerous offensive players in basketball today. A pick-and-roll master, an elite playmaker, a walking triple-double threat. He can score from anywhere on the floor, and he can run an entire offense by himself. But there's one thing that's always been true about Luka: he needs the ball. He needs control of the pace. He needs shooters around him to space the floor. And when you build a team the right way around that skill set, it works. We've seen it before in Dallas, when the roster was built with spacing, defensive support, and a system that let Luka orchestrate everything while other players handled the tough defensive matchups. But now with the Los Angeles Lakers, the conversation feels different. Instead of maximizing his strengths, the system looks like it's still trying to find balance between multiple timelines, multiple styles, and multiple priorities on the floor. And when that happens, roles start to overlap. You've got Austin Reeves trying to adjust in the middle of it all, spacing gets tighter, and the offense doesn't always flow the way Luka is used to. Then the focus shifts to defense, and suddenly Luka becomes the headline. But here's the reality: Luka has never been sold as an elite defender. That's not new, and it's not a secret. He's an offensive engine, and his job has always been to control the game on that end of the floor at an MVP level. The problem is what happens around him. When the roster doesn't have enough perimeter defense or consistent shooting, and when Luka is asked to take tougher defensive assignments, the weaknesses become louder. Not because he suddenly changed, but because the margin for error disappears. And that's where the real debate lives. Is this really about Luka struggling, or is it about a roster that doesn't fully match what he does best? Because when you strip everything else away, the formula for Luka has always been simple. Put shooters around him, protect him defensively, and let him run the show. And right now, the question is whether that formula is actually being followed.
Yeah, man.
He gotta retire this year.
No,
he don't, bro. I just don't like the fact that, like,
25
how many
years.
points Bron average?
Probably 20.
Nah,
He had like 18.
Who said no?
it ain't quite 20 yet, man.
He do.
Oh, we out of pocket. It's right there, 20.3. I thought it was upper.
What we talking about, gang?
27,
And we shooting 50%.
That's the lowest since his rookie year.
Let's also talk about the situation everyone keeps circling back to, because this is the elephant in the room for the Los Angeles Lakers. When you have a roster built around multiple superstars, everything comes down to fit, timing, and how the offense is structured. On one hand, you've got a generational creator in Luka Dončić, a player who thrives when he controls the pace, dominates the ball, and orchestrates every possession. That's when he looks at his absolute best, when the floor is spaced, shooters are ready, and the offense flows through him. Then you also have a team that's been shaped for years around a different style of basketball, led by a high-usage veteran like LeBron James, where rhythm, tempo, and possession control naturally become part of the system. And when those two worlds collide, the adjustment isn't automatic. It's not just about talent, it's about identity. Because when the pace slows down, when touches get redistributed, and when roles overlap instead of complementing each other, even elite offenses can start to feel less fluid. And that's when fans start looking for answers. But here's where the conversation gets messy. Instead of focusing on system fit, roster balance, and spacing issues, the debate quickly turns into pointing fingers, and that's where narratives start to take over. Some fans look at the chemistry and blame the newest addition. Others look at the structure and question how the roster is built in the first place. And suddenly, every loss becomes a referendum on one player or another. But the reality is usually more complicated than that. Because championship teams aren't just about stacking talent, they're about building a system where different skill sets actually work together. And right now, the big question around the Lakers isn't about one player being the problem, it's whether the system around them is maximizing what each star does best. That's the real debate, and it's not going away anytime soon.